This is The Sports Life.
And DeBoer on the final play of the game to throw from the 32. Throws into the end zone. Intercepted! Intercepted at the 5-yard line. And the Buckeyes are headed to the desert.
And they run Howard back.
And welcome into the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Some classic moments of the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. By the way, Dalton, could you pick two guys with better voices? Paul Keels and Keith Jackson? What?
It's incredible.
And you want us to talk after those guys? It's not fair. But anyway, not to give you a little bit of a spoiler alert, since this is the week of the big game, Michigan and Ohio State in Columbus this go-around, we're going to take a look at the rivalry and flash back to the biggest upset in that series, maybe. It came in 1969 when Michigan went down to Columbus and won it.
And no doubt about it, that changed the rivalry in many ways between Ohio State and Michigan. But also here in this show, I mean, look, Indiana football, the season they've had, who could have ever predicted this? It's one of the best stories there is. And the person who's relaying the story of the best story is Don Fischer. And he's in his 52nd year, and we've done a story about that storyteller. We're going to be giving you that here during this show. And also, Michigan State hockey really kind of broke through a glass ceiling and turned the program around under Adam Nightingale in year 2 last year. They're still rolling in year 3. We're going to bring you the cover story of one Adam Nightingale later on as well.
Well, with that, you ready for the Sounds of the Week?
I certainly am. We're doing a little bit of a throwback edition of the Sounds of the Week here in this one to get ready for the game of Ohio State and Michigan. We're pulling back some of the bigger moments in the rivalry. We're going to get one from each side here, so both parties are represented. No fighting here on the Sports Life. Let's start by going back to 2006. This was at the time labeled the game of the century. Number 1 versus number 2. Ohio State beats Michigan 42-39, and you'll get to hear from the voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Paul Keels, here in this one, and afterwards you'll hear from Ohio State quarterback Troy Smith.
Second down, Smith hands it to Wells, who goes spinning up the middle, gets past the 50 to the 45 to the 40, 30-yard line, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Chris Wells. Chris Wells right down the middle of the field. Leon Hall with a last chance to try and stop him, and the freshman from Akron, Garfield, a 52-yard scoring run, and Ohio State throws 6 more on the board. Troy Smith under center, tight end Rory Nickel will motion to the right, and Smith calls for the ball on 2nd and 1, feeds it to Pittman, who goes straight ahead, first down, 50-yard line, 40, Pittman, he may be gone, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Antonio Pittman. 56 yards to the house.
I'm at a loss of words right now. I was downstairs with my teammates, and the overall feel of everybody is unparalleled. You wouldn't be able to understand unless you've ran the gashes that we ran the hills that we ran, pushed the sleds that we've pushed, played Powerball, sand pits, when that heat and that sun is beating down on your back in the summer. The commitment and the focus was a key word for us today. I love every single one of my teammates with the deepest passion you can probably have for another person. Our staff did a great job today putting us in the right calls and the right situations. You got to fight, though. Persevere. And the 2006 Ohio State Buckeyes did just that.
Well, some heartfelt words by quarterback Troy Smith. And by the way, when he was going through all their workouts, no big deal. That's what we do.
Every morning.
I understand what the big deal is. But also, when you think about it, we talk about big plays, usually passing plays. 2 50-yard plus runs in that game, that's really something.
And that's Big Ten football, is it not? That's what we're here for. But also, as we mentioned, will represent Michigan, a positive moment for them, because Ohio State, look, they had that win in 2006. There's a couple decade stretch where they just owned this rivalry. But here recently, Michigan has a 3-game win streak in the rivalry against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Let's go to the one that ended the drought for Michigan. 2021 at the Big House. It was then Jim Brandstatter who was on the call as the Wolverines defeated the Buckeyes 42-27.
McNamara gets the snap, gives it to Haskins. Haskins scores untouched from the 4-yard line. His 5th of the day, and the Wolverines extend their lead. Football game right here. 4th down and long. Back to throw. Ojabo gets back there, forced Stroud out. Throw the ball down. That's caught, but it's short of the first down. That's it. It's caught by Olave, but it's 5 yards short of the first down. That'll do it. Ladies and gentlemen, the long drought is over. Ohio State is vanquished. 42-27 is the score, and the Wolverines are going to go to Indianapolis.
Well, I would say Jim Brandstatter, who was, before he retired, 37 years as a broadcaster for Michigan and played at Michigan, I think he was jacked.
I think there was a lot of his heart and soul into that one. And again, the context of it, Ohio State had a long win streak against Michigan. They finally snap it there in that one, and that's where all of a sudden you took notice. And that also, by the way, you hear at the end, Jim Brandstatter says the Michigan Wolverines end up in Indianapolis. That was the first time that Michigan had made it to the Big Ten championship game since it was created to be played there in Indianapolis. So it had been a long time coming, and you feel every single bit of that long time and patience in Jim Brandstatter's call there.
And the other thing is, this was kind of the beginning of the foundation of what was to come, and wind up being 2 more wins over Ohio State, 2 Big Ten titles, and a national championship. And so that was the beginning, and what a run. And so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens Saturday when the Michigan Wolverines, who are having a tough year, go to Columbus. Well, when we come back talking about this great rival game, Michigan and Ohio State, we're going to come back and talk about the upset of the century, the 1969 Michigan game at Ohio State. Woody versus Bo, the upset of the century. It's all coming up in just a moment.
So, I got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. It is hard to imagine the last week of the regular football season in the Big Ten is right in front of us. So as a way to kind of celebrate all the good things that have happened this football season, and also the expansion of the Big Ten and what that has meant for everybody, we thought we would revisit some of the best features we've done. And we're going to start off this show with one of the greatest games ever played that put Woody and Bo on the map. The big upset of the century, the 1969 Michigan-Ohio State game in Columbus. Well, on this week in 1969, November 22nd to be exact, one game changed the contemporary landscape of a conference, a university, all the while creating a brand new coaching legend.
And there it is, what has to be the upset of the century. In this centennial year of college football, what a ball game we have seen here today. And the jubilation and cheering celebration will go on long into the night in old Ann Arbor town.
The game was Ohio State and Michigan. The Buckeyes were shooting for their second straight national championship and owned a 22-game winning streak, and had the year before hammered Michigan 50-14. Scoring late in that game, and to the surprise of many, went for 2. It was said that Ohio State was the team of the century, and that only a team like the Minnesota Vikings of the National Football League could beat them. But on this November day at Michigan Stadium, for a then record crowd of over 103,000, they saw what might have been the biggest upset of the century. The final score was Michigan 24 and Ohio State 12. Offensive lineman Dan Deerdorf, who since his playing days at Michigan has been inducted into both the College Football and National Football League Hall of Fames, played in this game, but at the end did not quite understand its historic significance.
No, not really. Players, especially at that age, I mean, we just live in the moment, and especially we were living in Bo Schembechler's world, and he made it very clear that that was a privilege and that could be revoked at any moment. And so we were just working hard. I'll tell you what was interesting was years later visiting with Bo, and he told me, he said, Dan, you guys never knew this, but every day, I don't care if it was a week before Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, it didn't matter. Every day, there was probably about 5 minutes of our practice that day that was devoted to doing something that had to do with Ohio State. You guys didn't realize it, but that's what we were doing as a coaching staff. We worked on Ohio State every day of the entire football season. You guys just weren't aware of it.
They got you for 50 points the year before. Was that a big focal point to talk about as you guys were preparing?
Well, we would have forgotten about it except for the fact that Bo made every one of us on our football helmets put the score of the game across the front of our helmet. So you couldn't look at a teammate, you couldn't look at anything without seeing that score, like we forgot about it. But Bo wanted to make sure we didn't. No, that embarrassment the year before, because we were a pretty good football team, and getting embarrassed like that in Columbus, no, that was an open wound for every one of us.
Is it true that Woody Hayes really said when he went for 2 late in that game the year before, when asked, why did you go for 2 when the game was sealed? And he said, because I couldn't go for 3. Was that true?
Well, I wasn't at the post-game press conference. Nobody had a recording of it. But I can only tell you that it's a great line. So if he didn't say it, he should have said it. It encapsulates back then the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. Hey, you know what? It's our job to stop him. If he wants to go for a 2-point conversion, who cares? But you got to admit, if he actually did say it, it's a heck of a line.
It's a great line, Dan. It's a great line.
Hey, you know what? Let me just say one thing about Woody Hayes. A lot of people use the word hatred when they talk about Michigan and Ohio State. I can only tell you, in my era, that was not a word we ever used. There was nothing but respect for Coach Hayes and everything that he accomplished at Ohio State. Were they bitter rivals? Yes. But at the end of the day, about half our football team was from Ohio, and if we got a phone call that the University of Michigan was disbanding their football program, I'll bet you people would have been astonished how many guys from our football team would have then gone to Ohio State. It was respect, not hatred.
Dan, as you've been asked about this game, I'm sure hundreds of times, is there any one question you wish somebody would have asked you about this game and didn't?
I think the one thing that I don't think enough people realize that this was so much more than just a win over Ohio State and a great Ohio State team. What we're all so proud of, and what I don't know that everybody stops to think about, is that football game really kick-started the modern era of Michigan football. That it announced Bo Schembechler's impact, his arrival. It was the beginning of the 100,000 game sellouts. It didn't happen immediately, but the magic that happened after that game between Bo and Woody, the 10-year war. But I don't think Michigan football has ever been the same since that game. And every one of us on that field that day, to this day, we're immensely proud of that.
Also on the field that day for the Maize and Blue was fellow offensive lineman and Deerdorf's current broadcast partner on the Michigan Radio Network, Jim Brandstetter. One of the first questions of Jim was to recall how he felt after the big upset win against Ohio State.
Euphoria. I mean, we knew we were going to win, Will. I know it sounds silly, but before we took the field, we knew we were going to win. We wanted to play Ohio State as soon as we walked off the field the weekend before when we beat in Iowa. So when we won that game, it wasn't like it was a big surprise to us. We were just thrilled and happy for each other that we had pulled this off. And in the middle of that celebration, I don't think you got a sense of a history the way you do 20 years later or 10 years later. We just were a bunch of kids who had, with great commitment and great effort, pulled off a tremendous upset. And it was revenge from the year before. And we were sending this victory to those seniors from the year before that got hammered by Woody Hayes in Ohio State, Ron Johnson, who was playing for the New York Giants. We wanted him to know this is for you. So the historical perspective kind of was lost on us. We were just 20-year-old, 19-year-old kids thrilled to death celebrating great victory.
Did you ever think what would have happened had Ohio State won that game, how it would have changed the history of college sports and clearly in the Big Ten?
Honest to God, Will, and I don't mean to sound flip here, but no. I have never thought about what would it have been like if it was different, if they'd have won. I have never even imagined that. That's one of those questions, to be honest with you, I've never gotten it. So thank you for asking. But my answer at first blush is that's never crossed my mind because, I mean, literally from the time we left the Iowa City Kinnick Stadium field the week before we played that game, we believed we were going to win that game against Ohio State in 69. And it never entered our minds that we were going to lose. Maybe that's that magic of Schembechler. We were so confident. We believed it so much that when we did it, we weren't surprised, and we never looked back. We didn't even want to imagine the other possibilities. So I can't tell you what I have thought of if it wouldn't have happened because that's never, ever entered my mind.
Now, Jim, as we wrap this up, this may not be a fair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. All your years as a Michigan broadcaster on the radio network and your years as a player, is it possible to say maybe this game in 69 was the greatest win in contemporary times between these two schools, or is that maybe not fair and overstating it?
I think it is. And the reason I say that is because it changed, as you said earlier in our talk, it changed the face of the entire Big Ten Conference for, I want to say, the next 30 to 40 years. It became Michigan and Ohio State, the Big Two and Little Eight. It changed the balance of power. It put Bo Schembechler on the map. It took Michigan back to the days of when it was winning national championships and at the top of the football elite with Fritz Chrysler. And so that game was just the shock to the system. That was the defibrillator shot that got the heartbeat pumping again, and it never stopped for the next 30 to 40 years to the end of the Lloyd Carr era. So, yeah, in my lifetime, in all the years that I've spent at Michigan football, we've had big wins. We won a national championship in '97. There were some great wins, beating some big teams and upsetting Notre Dame and all that other stuff. But that all jump-started because of the 69 win over Ohio State. So that, to me, is a watershed moment in Michigan football history.
So look back at the upset of the century, the 1969 Michigan-Ohio State game where the Wolverines won it. Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, we're going to feature really a treasure in the state of Indiana. His name is Don Fischer. Back with more in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender.
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, Em, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce.
If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, with all the talk about this great football season Indiana has had Dalton and I thinking about this wonderful bit we did about Don Fischer a couple years ago. Now, Don Fischer, if you don't know it, is the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, football and men's basketball. But he's just not the voice of the team. He's part of the fiber of the entire state of Indiana. He's been at this now 52 years in a row. And this guy is such a big deal, somebody even wrote a song about him.
He's called the game through all these years, through the ups and downs and the smiles and tears. He's been right there through thick and thin, to the mountaintop and back down again. Got lots of fans, I'm sure one still turn down the TV to turn up Don. Every true IU fan's wish, old Fish. Let's hear you, Don.
The Hoosiers look like they're going for the last shot. Alford trying to work himself free. Spark down to Daryl Thomas. 8 seconds to go. On the Spark, baseline jump shot in the air. Good! 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
Of course, I'm talking about the legendary Indiana University broadcaster, Don Fischer, who this upcoming season will be entering his 50th year behind the Hoosier mic. So for Don Fischer, the beginning of his broadcast Hall of Fame journey was an interesting one.
The truth of the matter is I got into this business on a lark. Not a lark necessarily, but just on the spur of the moment. I was working for the railroad at the time as a ticket clerk in a railroad depot in Mendota, Illinois, where I was born. And my shift was 9 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. And when they hired me, they said, it's going to be a couple of weeks. We've got to hire a weekend guy, but for the next couple of weeks, you're going to have to work 7 days a week. And I said, not a problem. 7 months later, I finally got my first day off. I'm not kidding you. I literally had 1 day off in 7 months. And that shift is 9 at night till 6 in the morning. What kind of social life do you think I had? So at any rate, about halfway through this 7-month period, I'm sitting in the depot one night during my break, which was 1 to 2 in the morning. Nobody around, of course. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Sport magazine. Sport was had started competing with Sports Illustrated for that kind of deal. And so I'm sitting there, and on the back inside cover of Sport magazine, there's a full-page ad for a place called Career Academy in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a home correspondence course. And the headline was, how would you like to be a sportscaster? So that is how I started going, you know what? I know sports. I've been following sports all the years of my life at this point. I'm like 20 years old. And I just decided, hey, this is something I think I can do. And I never went to college. I was too stupid in high school to really apply myself. I was getting C's, but that was basically it. I got A's and B's in gym class and things like that, but in the regular classroom, I was a C student. It's just because I didn't apply myself. And I'm a twin. My brother was very good academically. He knew what he wanted to do when he was in 7th grade. He wanted to become a Lutheran pastor, and that's what he became. But I had no clue, and I was kind of the rebel of the family, so to speak, and the black sheep in many respects, deservedly so. And it just fit. What I saw there was, this is something I think I can do, just because I have a background in having played sports and everything through high school and that kind of thing. And I was an average athlete at best. But I loved it and enjoyed it. And so I got into the business through this home correspondence course, got my first job in Butte, Montana, of all places, and was there for about 15 months and came back to Illinois and went to work at this radio station in Ottawa, Illinois, and the rest is history.
And the history has been rather outstanding. 27 times Don Fischer has been honored as the State of Indiana Sports Broadcaster of the Year by the National Sports Media Association. And 17 of those honors came in succession. And Fischer is also a member of the Indiana Sports Writers and Sportscasters Association Hall of Fame, along with being a member of the Indiana Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame. Not bad for a guy who once worked overnights at a train station. Now, for Don Fischer, he may not remember every game he's ever broadcast, but he surely remembers the first one.
I got into this business, the first game that I ever did, I was going to get fired because it was the worst broadcast you've ever heard in the history of play-by-play. I'm not kidding you. It was horrific, and I still have that broadcast. I have it on digital now. I had it on tape at one time, but it's on digital now, and it's in my computer, and nobody gets to hear that. Maybe when I'm dead and they bring it back or something, I'm going to go, who the heck was that? Because it was an absolute horrific broadcast, and I walked into the radio station after that broadcast that night, waited an hour and a half because the station signed off at 10 o'clock in the evening. We did a football game on a Friday night. The station signed off at 10 o'clock. I waited till 11 o'clock to even go back to the radio station because I didn't want to see anybody. I knew how bad I had broadcast the game, or how bad the broadcast was. I got back there, and there's a light on in the radio station, and standing in the doorway, the shadow of the general manager waiting for me. Ooh. And I walked in, and he said, "I thought you told me you've done play-by-play before." And I said, "Well, Mr. Porso, if I had told you that I had no play-by-play experience, I didn't think you'd hire me." And he said, "No," and used the S word to finish the sentence. So I said, I know this is a family show, Will, so I'm taking care of you, buddy.
It was good.
So at any rate, I had 3 weeks to get better or I was fired. So I went to a local radio station in WLPO in LaSalle, Peru, Illinois. A guy named Art Kimball was the play-by-play guy there. Really a wonderful broadcaster, and I didn't know him from Adam. I just called him up on a Saturday after I'd done this football game, and I said, "Mr. Kimball, you don't know me. My name's Don Fischer. I grew up in Mendota. I was born in Mendota." I said, I'm in Ottawa, Illinois right now. I said, I need somebody to help me. He says, "Help you with what?" I said, "I did my first game last night, and I got 3 weeks to get better or I'm going to get fired." And he said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I'm going to church." I said, "What are you doing after you're going to church?" I said, "Whatever you want me to do." He said, "You come over to my house, and I'll help you." I went to his house. He spent 5 hours with me.
Wow.
Literally showed me how to prepare for a ball game, because you didn't get this in a home correspondence course. All you got was how to inflect your voice a little bit, read a newscast, and all those kinds of things. So when you think about it, Art Kimball probably saved my life in the sense of my career and what was all broadcasting was all about. And I've used the same stuff, Will, ever since. I have never varied from what Art Kimball taught me. He taught me how to do statistics while I'm doing the ball game, set up a chart, I did all those things, and I've been doing all those things for my entire career. And I'm not kidding you. I haven't changed a daggone thing because I can't change now.
So now we know how Fish got into broadcasting, how he became a play-by-play announcer, but how did he get to Indiana way back in 1973?
It was interesting. I was working in Terre Haute at WBOW, radio station that allowed me to do more play-by-play than I had ever done before. I was doing an average of 175 games a year, which tells you I was never home. It was really fun, though, and it gave me great experience. It was so much one of those jobs that you kind of dream about, in the sense of being able to do play-by-play, because that's basically all I did. I did sports shows, of course, like everybody does these days, but not talk shows, but regular sports cast every morning and that kind of thing, and then I'd go out and do a ball game. At any rate, a new owner came into the radio station and decided to make the FM side, where we did all of our sports, music intensive. This is back in the 70s, as you know, and that's what FM decided to do. And so at any rate, he said, you can stick around and we'd love to have you stay as an announcer, and you'd have a chance to do maybe one game a week on the AM side. That would be it. And I went, you got to be kidding me. That's not what I want to do. I've been doing all these ball games for the last 2.5 years. So at the end of the football season, I left and went back to a station that hired me in my first sportscasting job in Ottawa, Illinois. The general manager there was the program director when I was there the first time, and I called him up and I said, hey, they dropped sports here at WBOW. I said, is there any chance that I could hire on here in the wintertime before I look for another job? And he said, absolutely, we'll let you sell, which I'd never sold before. And I knew that was going to be a really difficult scenario. He said, but we've got a high school kid doing our football and basketball games, he said, and we'll let you teach him as much as you can teach him during the wintertime here and with basketball season. And I said, okay, I'll do it, because I didn't want to stay in Terre Haute. So I went back to Ottawa, Illinois, and then, of course, in the spring, I started looking for jobs, and one of the jobs and my old boss in Terre Haute called me up and told me that the job at Indiana was going to be an exclusive radio voice scenario for Indiana University. And today he said, you ought to apply for that. And I said, well, I'll do that. He said, I said, do you know anybody there? And he says, I know the general manager, Don Nelson. He said, I'll give him a call and see if they're still accepting applications, because I didn't know the job was open, and it had been open for like a month. So he called me back about 3 hours later, and he said, well, the job's still open, but he said they've had 270 some applicants for the job. He said, you might want to get yours in there pretty quickly. So I sent a tape and a resume to the radio station, WIRE in Indianapolis, and lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, I got a call. I made the final 5. So I went down for an interview, came back home thinking there's no chance, not with, 4 or 5 other people that they were going to interview, figuring it had to be somebody really good, or all of these guys were probably really good. Next thing I know, I get a call, and that's how I got to Indiana.
So with 49 years in the books and more to come, when it's time to step away, how would Don Fischer like to be remembered?
People have asked me that before, and I don't know how to answer it, to be quite honest about it. I just hope that I've been able to entertain them a little bit, and hopefully they've enjoyed what they've heard. I've always I loved listening to Harry Carey when I was a kid, when he was in St. Louis, when he actually did play-by-play and really did it well. I loved listening to that guy and how much excitement he brought to a broadcast. And if I am just an inch, in that area of entertainment for people, that's how I'd like him to remember.
A visit with one of the all-time greats, Don Fischer. Now, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, we're going to visit with somebody who's taken a hockey program and put it right back on top in short order. Back with more in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, this football season, a lot of discussion about the great turnaround of Indiana football. Well, last year there was a similar turnaround going on, maybe not as well publicized as what happened with Indiana football. But Dalton and I had a chance to do a cover story with Adam Nightingale, the head hockey coach at Michigan State University. Now, we bring this up because if you know college hockey, you know MSU at one time was one of the great programs in the nation, but hit hard times. And when Coach Nightingale was hired, in just his second season, led Michigan State to a regular season and Big Ten tournament title, 2 championships in only his second season, and a trip to the NCAA tournament. And this year, the Spartans are still rolling as they are in the top 5 in the nation. So Dalton and I thought, what the heck? Let's bring this story back that we did last year about Adam Nightingale and what he has done in East Lansing. Well, today's cover story deals with one of the nation's biggest turnarounds in the sport of college hockey. At one time, Michigan State was year in and year out one of the nation's premier collegiate hockey powers. Getting a ticket to see a Michigan State hockey game at Mount Ice Arena at times was virtually impossible. Even with the retirement of Hall of Fame coach Ron Mason, things seemed to keep rolling, which included another national championship in 2007. But after that surprising title run, the Spartan hockey program fell into a downward spiral. Over an 11-season span, the Michigan State hockey record was 136 wins, 223 losses, 36 ties, no titles, and declining attendance. Then last season, Michigan State brought back a former player and staff member, Adam Nightingale. In his first season as head coach, Nightingale led the Spartans to an 18-18-2 record. And now, in only his second season, he has Michigan State leading the Big Ten, and Mount Ice Arena again is selling out. So, what has been the magic?
Well, I think, we're still working towards getting where we want to get to, but yeah, I think there's a ton of pride in our program, right? And I think building a program doesn't happen overnight, and one that has a solid foundation. And I look back at, there's a lot that was done before I got here. And, you go back to Tom Anastas, redoing the interior of the rink and putting the Jumbotron in, the work it took, and, Danton Cole to the fundraising to this, our brand new $30 million renovation is, super fortunate for it. And then, I think it was trying to hire the right people, and that was one thing that was pretty amazing is, the respect that everyone has for Michigan State hockey is the amount of people that showed interest in coming. And I just thought it was critical. I wasn't working in college hockey at the time. I feel like Michigan State's a place you should be able to go and get the best coaches. And, the two assistants, Jared DeMichael and Mike Towns, were guys that didn't even apply. They were, D-Mike was at UMass. They had just won a national championship. Mike Towns was, started at ASC, was at Clarkson, they were a top 15 program. And, I reached out to those guys and, just doing my homework, their names kept coming up. And then our strength coach, adding Will Morlock, he was with me at the national team, and does an unbelievable job. And that's such a key to college hockey is just, development and helping guys get better and using our practice week and training week to improve, because we play on the weekends. It's not a weekday league, so you got an opportunity to grow. So he's done a great job. And then Brad Fass, I think Fass is a great Spartan and obviously All-American captain, played in the NHL, and really good with player development stuff. So I think that was really important, is really identifying the right people to kind of help turn it around.
Another key to any turnaround is the ability to sell the dream.
When I look back at it, I give like Trey Augustine. He's the top American-born goalie. He just won a World Junior gold medal. He committed to us before we ever, and I had coached Trey with the national team, so there was a relationship there. And I think that, Trey knew what he was signing up for. But you think back for him, he could have went to any school he wanted to, and at that position, you're talking about a goaltender that's, potentially walking into being under siege every game, and he wanted to be part of building something special. Coach Izzo helped us with that in that recruiting process. And I think you just kind of chip away at it, and then you got to prove it too, right? We can talk about all this stuff, and I think our staff has a good reputation. Again, we're not perfect, but a good reputation with helping players get better. And we had some tangible evidence. Nico Mueller went from 6 points to 34 points. Jagger Joshua never had more than 3 goals. He had 13, signed a pro contract. Cole Krieger led the Big Ten in goals last year. Never played on the power play. He was the first fifth-year player ever to sign an NHL contract. So everyone can talk about development and helping guys get better and improvement. And I thought we had some concrete evidence there.
And as for Adam Nightingale's background, it all started being from a state that loves the sport of hockey.
I grew up in a hockey family, grew up in northern Michigan. Both my parents had 2 brothers that played college hockey. And both my parents were college athletes, but didn't play hockey. But we had a passion, growing up in Sheboygan for the sport. And so, moved away from home at a young age. Eventually, played, I think my junior year. And then I, got a chance to come to Michigan State and play. Then I played a couple years after. A minor pro, and I was married at the time. My wife was pregnant, and so when she was pregnant, we didn't have insurance in the off season, so I had to take find a job, something that could, so we'd be covered. And I took a job with a construction company. I was a superintendent down in Charlotte, North Carolina for a year. I loved it. Actually, it was probably, if I didn't know hockey, that's probably what I stuck doing. I learned a lot about leading people, and not that I'm perfect, but I think, I never had to have hard conversations, and then all of a sudden you're in charge of $1 million home, and you got to tell people that things are done wrong or that's not good enough. And, but I just miss being around the sport and being a part of a team. And so I just called around, and I went to, I ended up at a boarding school in Faribault, Minnesota, Shattuck St. Mary's. For hockey people, it's a hockey factory. It's produced a lot of Hall of Fame NHL players. And so I went there. I coached the 4th midget team. I coached lacrosse as well. I taught economics. I was a dorm parent. I was head of summer hockey camp. I was an advisor to seniors. So you have to wear a lot of different hats, but loved it there. I was there 2 years. Got a chance to come back to Michigan State to work for Coach Comley and Coach Anastas for 4 years as director of hockey ops. And at that time, they were pretty strict on what you're allowed to do coaching wise. I knew I wanted to coach. I actually left Michigan State, went back to Shattuck, coached the Bantam team, which is 14 and under. I did that for 2 years. And then I got a call out of nowhere from Dan Bilesma to go to the Buffalo Sabres in the NHL. And, I thought we were going to be at Shattuck the rest of our lives. It was never about the level I was coaching, but, you don't get that call every day to get a chance to work in the NHL. And Dan Bilesma was the guy that won an Olympic, or was our Olympic coach, and won a Stanley Cup. And so went there for a year. Then I was in Detroit with the Red Wings for 3 years. Loved it, loved my time there. And then, I ended up taking a job with the national team as the head coach of the under 17 team and, the under 18 team the next year. And then this opportunity popped up, and I was fortunate to get it.
And being from Sheboygan, Michigan didn't hurt.
Yeah. Growing up in Sheboygan, I think it's an unbelievable hockey state. And, college hockey, where I grew up, Lake Superior State was really humming at that time, and we'd go to a lot of their games. And if we didn't go to the games, we'd listen to them on the radio. And I'm thankful for growing up in that area, because it showed my brothers and I that, playing college hockey is attainable. It takes a lot of work and obviously commitment, but to have, at that time, Lake Superior had won the national championship in '88, won it in '92, lost in the finals in '93, and won it in '94. I mean, they were really rolling. So we had some great role models to look up to.
When it comes to Spartan head coach Adam Nightingale, he has sort of been there and done that. He has coached at the international, professional, collegiate, and youth levels, all with positive results. And he is big on East Lansing.
I really think that East Lansing's a hockey community, and it's been awesome seeing the rink fill up. And you can't get a ticket now. It's been standing room only. It's loud. What I like about that is, obviously I'm thankful for how we were supported here, athletic department, but we made it clear that we're not into giveaways, and we got to earn some respect here. And if you want more people in the building, we got to play hard. We got to play as a team. We got to give our fans something to cheer about. And early on, when we took over, there wasn't a ton of people at our game, and by about December last year, the rest of the time, it's like I said, it's been jammed, and so that's been cool. I think for our guys to earn that respect of our fan base, and now our job's to keep it.
And so far, so good for the Spartans and Coach Adam Nightingale. When we come back with more of the Sports Life, our parting shots in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little, but thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt, that's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. That's 800-298-9093.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope. Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family, Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player. No matter the challenges I face every day in the NFL, my mom is always there for me, despite her own struggles with muscular dystrophy. And MDA is there for my mom. At their 150 care centers across the U.S., MDA is the leading organization in research and care for kids and adults with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related neuromuscular diseases. Join me and learn more at helpmda.org today. Thank you.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. A fun show this week as we've had a lot of cover stories. We got to relive the upset of the century, Michigan beating Ohio State. The Don Fischer story, that's always a good one. And what about the job Adam Nightingale has done at Michigan State with that hockey program? All good things. But maybe not as good as parting shots.
You might be right. Maybe not as good. And by the way, I do want to let everybody know they can follow us at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X. That's at Sports Life Now. You can hear all of those features that Will just talked about a moment ago. For my parting shot, this is a little bit unconventional here on the Sports Life. It doesn't actually deal with the Big Ten. It goes back maybe a couple weeks now, but there's a collegiate volleyball story that I think is worth pursuing. It's a moment here where you had a senior on senior day getting ready to close out her collegiate career, right? She hasn't gotten to play at all this year. She tore her ACL right before the season started, and that's obviously a pretty crushing thing for somebody to go through. It's their final year where they get to play in college, and they have the moment stripped away from them. But with a 2-1 set lead, Louisiana up on Georgia Southern, they check in Sienna DeCambra with a torn ACL. She's wearing an entire leg brace just to go serve one final time in her college career. They're up 24-16 in the fourth set. If she gets the point somehow with a torn ACL, they win the match. That's exactly what happened. Take a listen to this moment.
How about this for some respect on match point? Christy Graves putting Sienna DeCambra back in to serve. It's basically all she can do. That whole leg is just immobilized.
And she'll just kind of stay deep on the sideline.
And she's got an ace! And she got an ace serve on match point!
Oh my gosh.
What a moment for Sienna DeCambra. Her last point as a collegiate athlete.
So Sienna DeCambra closes out her college career with a torn ACL, leg in a brace, getting a service ace, and Louisiana wins the match against Georgia Southern on that walk-off ace. I mean, look, there's a lot of bad things in the news, and especially if you look at college athletics, you hear a lot of horror stories. That's one that makes you believe in what this is all about.
Absolutely. And what a memory for her.
No kidding.
For the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Well, since basketball is heating up, Dalton, I thought I'd take a look at what are the odds of the Big Ten winning a national championship this year. As most college fans know that follow the Big Ten, that has not happened since the year 2000 when Michigan State won. So it's been a little bit of a drought, even though the Big Ten has had a whole bunch of teams in the Final Four, just can't quite get there. So our number one chance to win at 60-1 is Illinois and Michigan. Those are the two tops. By the way, Michigan State 66-1, Ohio State 66-1. There you go. So not great.
Right.
If you're curious who they think might win it, Duke, UConn, and Gonzaga are all 11-1.
Okay.
So we're going for the upset, dog. One of these days we're going to win this thing. So with that, that's a wrap for our show, and I always appreciate everybody joining us. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcast, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler and assisted by Owen Cronin. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.